Welcome back, fans of the world. It is episode number 8 coming into you live. I'm Jeremy Compton, VP of Engineering for DET Consulting. With me today, my fearless partner in crime, Pat Salvo, CEO of DET. Today's topic is one that we've had a good chuckle about lately. Yeah. The past year, 2, 3, seems to come up all the time when we're talking to people is where are we actually operating at? You know, we'll be in a meeting talking to somebody and they're like, oh, you know, we've got some acreage we're looking at up here. And we're like, well, exactly where at? And they're like, oh, it's, you know, they give us a town or something. And then, oh, we just drilled a couple wells next to that. And they're like,
really? What? Didn't know you guys were operating up there. Well, we operate all around the country. It's actually, we see a lot of things, and it might be more relevant to some of the people that we're talking to. They might not know that we actually had that experience up there. So
yeah,
great topic.
Yeah, without a doubt. So, you know, when we start talking about this, a lot of times I get branded mainly because I love South Texas. Mm-hmm. I get branded as a South Texas guy. I actually spent several years in the Permian drilling wells out there. Mm-hmm. Actually lived part-time in Midland. You know, did a lot of East Texas, chalk work, stuff like that. So let's just kind of run through some of the areas that we have drilled in. I mean, I know you saw episode 2, and we talk about the 60 plus wells we wanted you to know we drilled last year, because that's a lot of wells. Mm-hmm. And we also are doing completions. I know I keep saying drilling, and Pat yells at me when we turn the video off that, you know, we just don't drill wells. I'm like, I know. Okay, so
every time.
Drilling and completions. Let's kind of go through that. So, you know, what are some areas up north that we hit on?
Yeah, so some things that people might actually not know is that we've actually drilled quite a few wells up in the DJ Basin. I mean, in the farther part of the DJ Basin. Everyone talks about DJ Basin in Colorado, but we were actually up in Wyoming drilling some really great wells in there and had a pretty good project. It's actually a combination of vertical wells and a combination of 10,000-foot horizontals and actually meeting some pace-setting standards up there and actually exceeding some of those standards. 10,000-foot lateral in 6 days is fast. Anywhere you drill it, right?
Anywhere you're drilling, you're banging out 10,000 foot in 6 days. It's a good thing. I think really, you know, up there we were able to come in and pass some development, you know, speeds and still provide our customer exactly what they wanted.
For sure.
Right, you know, and that's a big thing, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, some other wells that we've done that are kind of, we drilled a deep Wilcox horizontal last year. That, you know, that's flirting with some old stuff that we were doing back in the 2000s. And that one was kind of around. You know, we just finished a West Texas project in St. Andrews.
Yeah.
We actually have a project manager, engineer on staff who lives in Midland. Mm-hmm. He's been out there a while. So we have people placed around. You know, in the Northeast, we have a project manager on staff that works for us, that's been with us for a while, that was up there for 6-7 years.
Yeah, 7 years up in the Northeast. I mean, not guessing about what that project looks like and what those wells look like. You know, whenever the Northeast is starting to pick up a little bit with gas prices and whatnot that we're seeing, it's a pretty big deal to be able to have that diversification within DET, and it's not just a South Texas or Permian. It's all around the country. North, West Texas, South Texas. We actually have Gulf of Mexico experience. So going and drilling the water is not outside of our realm either. Northeast is a really big place where we have experience. Louisiana, Mississippi.
Yeah, I spent 3 years on and off a barge down in South Louisiana. You know, we call those inland drill ships. They're really nice.
Yep.
Mystery meat every other week. So, I mean, we've got a lot of places that we've drilled, things that we've done, and not just that we did 15 years ago, stuff that we're active and constantly doing. You know, and another one that's a real big in our repertoire is Austin chalk wells.
Yep.
We have done open hole completion, dual opposing lateral, crow's foot laterals. We've done completed laterals with, you know, production string ran and fracked them. We've done standalone Austin chalks. We've done 2 Eaglefords with the Austin chalk on top of it. We've wine racked the chalk with the Eagleford. Just a lot of stuff like that. And we're seeing chalk buzz coming back with what's going on with all the gas.
Yeah.
Because there's some deep chalk that will produce good gas.
Yep.
Especially if you stack a wine rack with them and the Eagleford.
Yep.
That is starting to buzz a little bit back in South Texas again.
Yep.
And East Texas, there's still a whole bunch of chalk laying over there that's a real tough one to drill that had really good numbers that people walked away from. I hope this $253 gas brings that back into play.
Yep.
You know, Delaware Basin, we've done 70, 80 wells.
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing about it is, like you talked about, people think about us as South Texas, and we've actually drilled as many wells or more in West Texas than we have in South Texas. That's sort of a aha moment whenever we start talking to groups and we're like, well, hey, look, let's go talk about that. If you're looking at some acquisitions or you want to go drill those things, let's talk about the things that we're going to run into and how we mitigate those and some actual real world costs associated with them. And one of the things that I always yell at you every time is we haven't even talked about the completion side. Yeah. I mean, our completion staff that we have at DET has fracked more wells. I think we talked about it this week.
They fracked more wells than we've drilled.
Yeah, it's so
100%.
Funny.
So
when we were talking about the number of stages pumped, we're on the realm of 15,000 stages pumped, and that's not in South Texas. That is Haynesville, Eagleford, Chalk, Delaware Basin, Midland Basin, up in the DJ, up in the Powder River. I mean, we're talking the Basin. Yeah, I mean, we're talking about plethora of completions experience all across the country also, that we can take those lessons learned and those principles from the way up north all the way down south to the east to the west and start having a well-rounded experience.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. And, just a little bit on the completions. We're going to bring our completions crew in here. We've got so many people lobbying to be on these videos. Right now, we're just kind of keeping it to ourselves because we don't want to hurt all of our employees' feelings. Everybody wants to be a star, but stardom has a price to pay, and I'm not just passing that out yet. So don't want to lose anybody to it. We can handle it. We are what we are. So, but all that being said, when we design wells, a big impact that we do when we talk about, last week we talked about what is performance, meeting your customers' goals. We design our wells so our completions guys don't have problems completing, and their production guys don't have problems 2-3 years from now if we need to rod that well up 2-3 months from now. We have wells that are going on artificial lift as soon as we come off in our low pressure areas.
Yep.
That's the type of things that we do when we design on the drilling, is we're making sure completions and production aren't going to have any hiccups with us. And if they have problem wells in their fields, we're always going back and saying, and that's just not South Texas. That's because every place different, right? We get out in West Texas, shallow stuff, we may be riding up or going to ESP on day one. Right. We go over to East Texas, gas well in Haynesville, we might never see artificial lift, right? So, I mean, we're looking at problem wells in the fields and what caused those. Is it more of a drill out issue if we're not running artificial lift, or is it an artificial lift drilled well to support that ESP and the life of it? Are we putting a 45-degree tangent in the middle of the curve that's perfect rifle barrel so we can place a pump down there? Yeah. That's the stuff that we're doing, and we're not just doing it in South Texas or in the Permian. We're around. Yeah. We're pretty global.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that we get whenever you start combining those things and you are drilling for a completion and completing for production. If we start at the end and we go backwards, so start at production and the problems that are seen in production side, and we plan for those and engineer around those, we actually have a lot better product, and performance is defined by the long life of that product. If that's what the customer needs and wants, that is performance. And whenever you wrap it all together, when the drilling is talking to the completion and setting up for the completion setting up for the production, production's talking to the drilling and setting the well up on the drilling side for the production, you see a lot of problems mitigated just from the very beginning by defining performance as, this is what performance is. Make sure that our production goes smooth and we don't have a lot on LOE, that we're sitting there and we're actually planning on the drilling side, planning on the completion side for the production in the long life.
Yeah. All right. I think that covers it well. I think we got across kind of what we wanted to discuss this week and where we're going. As always, when in doubt, keep it salty, and we'll see y'all next week.